Welcome to Scroll versus Screen.
Hello.
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 I'm Ty. This is Steve.
Hello.
What are we talking about tonight, Steve?
Tonight. Episode
whatever.
1. Ready Player One.
It kind of fits.
I didn't even realize it fit that
How
way.
did you not? I literally put it on the Google Drive.
I know.
Ep1 RP1.
But
it's right there.
it just...
Kablooey.
Kaboom. So we're going to be talking about Ready Player One.
Yes. The movie comes out in a week from right now. Whenever we get done with editing this, it will be either right before the movie comes out on DVD, Blu-ray, digital. Digital's actually already out.
Soon, streaming right to your heads.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
From the makers of Comcast comes.
That's going to be dangerous. So, anyways, that is what we're going to be talking about. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of spoilers for both the movie and the book in this episode.
Absolutely.
But before we get into spoiler-intensive material, so this is a little premature. He's a preemie. It's okay.
Preemie? That sounds really good. Let's continue.
So, we are actually gonna just kind of talk about our initial medium before we get into actually the nitty-gritty of this episode. So, if you have not seen the movie or read the book, keep listening for just a minute more. I saw the movie first. You read the book, sort of. You had the book read to you by someone fantastic.
Someone fantastic.
Who did you have their book read to you by? Who was it again?
My medium was the audiobook from Audible. By the way, fantastic service. If you haven't signed up for it and you have a commute to work, school, your local coffee shop, absolutely do it.
And, you know, if you don't spend that whole drive listening to us, you can listen to that as well.
Yes. Shit.
Yeah, I know. We're promoting them to listen to someone other than us.
We're not promoting anything.
just put us on repeat. Leave it right there. You're good.
Anyways, my first exposure to this this fantastic universe was the audiobook or the book, either way. But
it's the book. It's the source material.
The audio version of Ready Player One is read to you by Will Wheaton.
Will Wheaton, which actually makes an appearance in the book too. So that must have been really fun for him to read.
I would, if it was me,
to an audience talking about himself, because he was.
It's a little bit masturbatory, but I think he got over it real quick. So
I'm sure he might have been okay with it.
Yep.
So what role does he take in the book?
He doesn't actually take much of a role. Like
his name is mentioned.
Right. But he's not like
in the world of the book.
Right.
What does Will Wheaton do?
He is.
Isn't he the president of the IOI?
No.
Oasis.
Of Oasis. He's a potential president candidate.
I thought it was for the Oasis, though.
Right, for the Oasis.
Which is by far more powerful than any other president on the planet at this point in the book.
Right. So it's... Yeah. That's what he takes. He does a fantastic job. I really feel like he gets into the characters' ways that they say certain words and how their actions...
Oh, we're not getting into spoilers yet.
I know.
So.
I'm just saying, he really gets it into the character. He does a fantastic job.
If you're an audiobook person, fantastic audiobook to listen to, especially with who reads it to you.
He's great.
You know, it's not just some random person that just has a good voice. It's someone that actually kind of fits into the genre
and cares
very
about
well.
It. Yeah.
And, you know, he's very passionate about those sort of worlds. So, let's do a real quick which one should I watch first? So if you guys have not seen either, or seen the movie or read the book yet, my initial reaction with the movie was I enjoyed the movie, and actually overall I enjoyed the movie more than the book in some respects there.
Okay.
It was easy enough to follow, I wasn't lost. There was enough nostalgia thrown into the movie that I felt very complete with it. I feel like if I would have read the book first, certain parts of the movie would have annoyed me more. I felt like the movie did a better job of characterization for certain people. You know, They were actually dynamic characters instead of flat characters. The main one being the main female lead of the movie was by far better in the movie. than she was in the book.
Okay.
So if you have done neither, at least watch the movie first, in my opinion.
Okay, yeah.
Before you finish this episode. The book, no matter what we tell you about the book, you're gonna enjoy the book if you're into that sort of stuff.
It's
but if we tell you, if you listen to the rest of this, the movie will not be as enjoyable. So at least watch the movie before you finish this episode. Is where I'm gonna go with this. You kind of in agreement here?
Kind of. I really liked the book, and we'll get into the why. I don't want to say
the nitty gritty.
Yeah, we'll get into that later. But I really liked the book and how it was read to me, and it really came alive for me as I make my 30-minute commute at 4 a.m. to my job.
You're telling me, dude. Those cab rides are killing me down in Chicago.
Nice.
Hour at a time, 2 hours. I had a 3-hour cab ride the other day. It was fantastic. I got so much podcast listening done.
And so little battery left.
Oh my god, yeah. No, I took my portable charger with me. I was solid. I had 100% when I got down there.
Oh, alright, nice. Alright, so, Ready Player One. Where do we want to start with?
Now we're going to get into the spoilers. So, turn this off if you don't want the spoilers. If you're seen the movie, read the book, one, both, neither, well, not neither. If you've done neither, just get out of here.
Just get out of here.
One or both, though, we're getting into the hardcore nitty-gritty here. So, we're going to be kind of tackling the main differences.
Okay.
I want to tackle the challenges.
Okay, yes.
I think maybe we'll do character differences after that. But let's go after these challenges real quick.
Okay.
'Cause that's what this movie's all about, is what do these characters have to deal with in order to win the biggest sum of money imaginable, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine winning every single kind of lottery from every single state at the same time and then double it. That's what these characters are basically playing
with
for.
With the ultimate cherry topping.
Of full control God mode enabled, basically.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. That actually is part of what happens to their characters, is that they get God mode cheat turned on in the game, you know.
Every spell unlocked.
They're invincible. They are the immovable object, the unstoppable force. They are...
Did you just pull a Batman reference out of your butt?
That is a reference to so many different things.
I'm just saying. Anyway, but yes. Yes,
so,
okay.
But yeah, let's go after the challenge. Let's go after challenge one real quick.
Movie or book?
Let's go after both. Which one did you prefer?
Well, the first challenge in the movie was the race.
Yep. It's right there on your right side of your notes here. Keep up, man.
Yeah, was
talking about a race. Yeah, keep up.
Ha
ha! I'm the pun master tonight.
Dick.
Yeah, so the movie was the race that they showed in the trailer. Mm-hmm. There was a huge selling point for the trailers, was this insane race through, I believe it was downtown San Francisco, as you pointed out. Because it looked like it was the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah, I think it was San Francisco.
It looked
I'm
at least
pretty sure.
Inspired by San Francisco.
Some sort of urban
and setting. I would guess with those crazy hills that they were going down at the end... You know, to get into that park, that did feel
I didn't even think of that!
It is very San Francisco feel.
Very San Francisco-y.
Hilly there,
yes.
You know. The dumbass kids with a skateboard have a great time there, because they have no control. Speed wobbles are fun as shit to watch, dude.
Especially when you hit 40 miles per hour right into the minivan.
And, you know, when you hit 88 miles per hour...
You make a good squish sounds at that. Oh,
I got you again. Oh, man.
And then in the book, it's kind of for the book it's a little bit different. It's not challenge 1, it's not challenge 2, it's not challenge 3.
Yeah, actually let's target that then. That's one of the huge differences.
So in the movie it's presented
you complete a challenge, you get the key, and you get the clue to the next key.
Yeah.
And each key has a challenge associated with it. Whereas the book, you complete a challenge, you get a clue to where the gate is that key unlocks. Mm-hmm. Once you find that gate, which is basically another challenge in itself, you get a clue for where the next key is. So in essence, the book has 6 challenges, the movie has 3.
Basically, yeah.
And that's what it comes down to, is once they get the 3rd key, the clue leads them to where all 3 keys must be used for a gate. So it is 6 versus 3 here at the moment.
Sixers.
Yeah, hey, good job. Didn't mean that one. So, anyways, to get the key in the book. You want to go after this one? You want me to go after this one?
I got this. So the first to get the key in the book, the main character,
Parzival,
or Wade Watts.
Superhero name.
Figures out that the first area to go to is actually on the school planet that he basically is stuck on.
Yeah, he's enrolled in that school, and he doesn't have enough money to get off of that planet, really.
No, the makers of Oasis, James Halliday and Ogden Morrow, used, they put in the first area to some place where anyone could figure that out. Or
anyone had
access. Yeah. And what it was the first area was a full realization and visual representation. A replica of the Tomb of Horrors D&D module.
One of the classics that's been asked for remakes every single edition.
Mm-hmm. It's
one of the most sought after remakes for every time there's a new D&D edition that comes out, second edition, third edition, all the way up to fifth now that we're on currently, that we currently play.
Pretty much.
And it hasn't been realized yet. They haven't made a Tomb of Horrors remake for any of these new editions, or at least
that I'm aware of anyway.
There's been fan remakes, but not something produced by Wizards of the Coast.
Not official, yeah. So, along with the Tomb of Horrors module, he goes through it like in the module. He fights the monsters, he gets the gear.
No, he doesn't even do that. Remember what he does? He looks up a full the DM book, the Dungeon Master book, and knows how to skip the monsters because he's too low level to fight them.
And the traps and whatnot.
So
that's right. So he basically
all the loot.
Yeah. And goes through, and then he ends up on the end, like a particular area where there's not supposed to be a boss.
Well, it's supposed to be the Lich is supposed to fight him in like the next room or something.
Yeah, like way deeper or something like that. But it's like the main bad guy of the module. Mm-hmm. But he's standing there, which is a Lich, and he's standing there, and he has to, and Parzival has to beat him
at a game of Joust.
On a game of Joust on an arcade
Classic
cabinet.
Arcades.
Like coin-operated game
He attempts to approach the Lich starts to react and challenges him to a game of Joust, and they leave it ambiguous of what the Lich will do to him if he loses. It's implied heavily that the Lich is going to attack him if he loses.
Right.
And this is a guy that is like level 3 at this point.
If that. Yeah.
In the book they mention just how underpowered he is. He knows that if he has to fight this thing, he doesn't even have a chance to run away.
Yep.
He's so overpowered.
He's just dust.
So he literally realizes that he must win first go. And what I like is both the movie and the book, there was a trick to winning.
Mm-hmm.
There was some trick to winning. So, I get why they changed the first challenge so heavily. Not enough people are into D&D.
It's true. It's much more mainstream these days than it used to be.
If this had been released 5 years ago, no one would have given a shit about a D&D reference. But now with things like, Stranger Things, I believe this show, and the kids in that show play D&D a whole bunch. It's helped bring a lot of revitalization to Dungeons & Dragons.
Oh,
There's been episodes of, I believe Supernatural had a Dungeons & Dragons episode. Almost every show
much
nowadays
more callbacks
is having to do a D&D episode to appease the audience.
Yeah.
It feels like. Which some of them I applaud, some of them I'm like, you just kind of felt like you had to do it, didn't you? And you know that they were just kind of shoehorned in. Okay, we gotta do the D&D episode, guys.
Fun fact, did you know that recently Supernatural did an episode with Scooby-Doo?
I do. Rhiannon will not... My little sister mentions it every time we talk, that there was a Supernatural episode with Scooby-Doo.
So funny.
So anyways, let's get back on track here.
Okay, so and then the second part of that, when he gets the key, he reads the inscription, figures out the clue. He has to go to James Halliday's childhood home, which is basically there's a planet with like many copies of his hometown.
So
and
all of these challenges are actually done in the Oasis. So when we say he's going to James Halliday's original home, childhood home, it's a replica, again, within the Oasis of his original home, as it was when he was a child. So, his original posters before he moved out of, mom and dad's house and all that stuff.
Basically, he was like 10, 11 years old.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Younger, all that stuff.
So
he goes to his James Halliday's childhood home and boots up a video game, and he has to beat it. He does that, and then there's a War Games movie poster.
Yeah, and that's actually, it kind of turns into a portal.
Yeah, and he goes through the portal, and it's really cool. He has to the
play
object
the lead male character
in War Games.
So he's literally role playing the game as if you were doing it on a stage with your friends.
Right, the entire movie. We're talking about like little intricate things, like if he made the character made a hand motion or a sigh or something like that. He gets points based on that, and then he makes it through the end of the challenge, and
that's where he completes the gate. It gives him more points on the scoreboard, and he gets the clue to where the next key is.
Right. So that technically, those 2 challenges was the first challenge from the movie.
Yeah.
So tell me more about the movie version.
So the movie version was the big giant car race. You got a lot of characters here. You're first introduced to pretty much the main cast. You've got H. You had seen him in a video chat before that. That's about it. Him talking while he was in some big battle, some PvP battle. You've got Parzival. You get introduced to Artemis, which is the main female lead, and the Sixers. That's literally the introduction here.
And Daito and Shoto are introduced in that PvP game
the PvP
that
thing. You did see them, but it wasn't really focused on them. You didn't know what their significance was until later.
Right.
And then you watch in the movie and they get introduced. You're like, hey, I saw these guys before. I know who they are.
In the background of the movie, I'm pretty sure Daito beheads an avatar that looks...
It's the uncle.
The uncle?
Or no, the aunt's boyfriend. If you pay attention, the aunt's boyfriend's avatar is the one that's killed by, I believe, Daito.
Oh, really? Well, his avatar was Chuck Norris, I'm pretty sure.
I believe it was, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Anyway, so the race. How does that go down?
So it's this huge race. They start on, we're gonna just call it the Golden Gate Bridge. And they're taking off, and that's when you start seeing all these traps. The cars are pushing each other off the edges. Traps are opening in the floor and people are falling through. Ramps are popping up. They get into the city proper. Wrecking balls are flying every which direction. There's a T-Rex that attacks them. I mean, it's everything you can imagine
going wrong.
If you took Death Race, mixed it with Jurassic Park, and threw King Kong in the middle, you've got what's going on in this race. They're racing through the city. King Kong attacks. It's the game is trying to stop them from getting to the end, and no one has been able to get into the end.
Right, because everyone knows that this is the first challenge.
Yeah. So there's not a secret about the challenge.
No,
so in
it's
the movie,
not a secret.
The challenges themselves are the hard part. In the book, finding the challenges is the hard part.
It's more it's more difficult.
Yeah, it's really well hidden what you even need to get to. And then pretty much every single challenge in the book is, as soon as people find it, it's done. Just as easy. Everyone knows what you need to do. It's such nostalgic things that everyone can look up a guide on how to do it real quick. Whereas the movie is very much so, how do we beat this challenge? They all have to deal with some trick as well. So we finally get to the point where, Artemis is introduced. We'll get to the character developments in a bit. And Parzival actually figures out the trick for completing the movie. The trick in the book was he asked the Lich to swap spots with him so that he's player 1 versus player 2. And in his position, he's more familiar with playing as the left side of the screen. He's able to win. He's able to... Basically, the Lich is used to being the left side, too, because all of a sudden everyone's able to beat the Lich as soon as the Lich goes to the right side.
Pretty much.
So the clue he gives to a couple people, they all win immediately on basically their first try as soon as they ask that question of the Lich. In the movie, Parzival is able to look at old records of Halliday and notice a reference to, trying to go backwards. And he puts 2 and 2 together of part of the clue is telling him to look at this history of Halliday and part of the clue is telling him to do this race. Halliday said go backwards. So he throws his car in reverse and it actually opens up.
Yeah, he takes it literally.
Yeah, he takes it literally and actually finds the shortcut of the map, which puts him underneath the racetrack. So he's able to watch absolutely amazing animation and graphic use here of all the various things popping up into the ground as he's on this underground racetrack. He can see through it almost like Matrix style. He can see through the environment and see everyone racing up above and seeing the traps come out to hit them. So there's the really cool scene. I loved it. The T-Rex on a platform, and it just raises the whole platform up, and then the T-Rex goes and attacks all the cars. So he sees it underground when it's just standing there stoic, and then it hits up top, and then it goes nuts and starts trying to attack.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, so...
Okay, so that's challenge 1 from the movie.
Exactly.
Okay, so challenge 2.
And that's, yeah. Challenge 2. Go ahead.
All right, so
you want to do the movie this time and I'll do the book this time? Or you want to... Let's just go after the book.
Okay, so the challenge 2 of the book was... the first part was he has to go to a planet where the old text adventure game Zork is made, again, like a replica, but like a visual representation of it.
Yeah, so it's basically he's live action, he's LARPing Zork.
Pretty much. So he has
That's
to...
what all of this is just LARPing each thing.
Hard LARP. So he goes to this planet and has to play through Zork and getting all the... If you're not familiar, the object is to get an X number of trophies and then you win.
You place them in the trophy case, and it beats the game. It unlocks your escape from this reality.
Yeah. So he does that, and he then goes to... He's given certain clues and figures out he needs to go to a planet where it's again a replica of the movie, the original movie of Blade Runner.
Yeah. And what I really enjoyed about that scene in the book was the fact that the key was wrapped in the foil that they used to make, what was it, a unicorn? Is what they folded the origami into for the Blade Runner? I'm trying to remember if that's what it was.
I think it was.
I believe it was a unicorn, yeah. So they gave him the foil, the key was wrapped in the foil, and he has to figure out to wrap the foil into the unicorn, and that gives him the clue of, oh, hey, yeah, this is a Blade Runner reference.
Okay.
Let's go do Blade Runner.
So he goes to the planet, he fights his way up to it, the top, and I kind of saw this coming, having seen Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner, but he has to take, like, the big clue is you take the test. So he has to, I can't remember what the test was called, but he has to take the test to figure out the next thing. So he starts up the thing, and some things happen, and he goes into a screen, and he is then he becomes the player in a game called Black Tiger, which is an old school side-scrolling game. But instead,
the Void Comps.
That's it, Void Comp test. So
But yeah, so
he has to play Black Tiger, but as the main character guy, and it's not just like it's not just him playing the game like, side scrolling. It's literally him.
He gets sucked into it.
Yeah, he plays the thing. He gets the powers, he gets the weapons, and he has to beat Black Tiger. And then
the reward from that is a little more substantial than just a clue, though.
Yeah, that was the
robots.
That's right.
The various robots.
So after he does that, he gets a choice of he gets shown a whole bunch of these like giant like mech
all the
robots.
Classic mech.
Yeah, everything from like all like Gundams and Voltron and all that other stuff.
The various Power Ranger part or Power Ranger ones.
Yeah, so all that jazz, and he chooses one, and
I can't even remember which one he chooses.
He chose cheat something.
It's something Leo something or another.
Yeah,
but either way.
Yeah, so he chooses a big robot, and then the story continues. So, what about the movie side?
The movie side, the second challenge was the Shining. They're given a clue. It's all about James Halliday's regrets in his life, which was considered the love life with Kira. And, his first date with Kira was to take her to go see The Shining. And in the movie, they assume that it was because he never actually danced with her was his big regret. So they went to this big old dance club first and tried to see if that's where they needed to go, because it was a replica of the dance club that they were supposed to go to, James Halliday and Kira, and he never danced with her. So they thought maybe if two people would, him and Artemis, so Parzival and Artemis did this together. So maybe if we dance, we have the keys, maybe that's what unlocks the next part, is you have to have the keys in order to do it instead of just, being there. So that doesn't work out. It ends in an ambush. So that's where they get this big IOI attack on them. As well as how, this is a big difference too, is how Wade gets exposed as who he is. So in this one, he mentions that his name is Wade while he's at this nightclub, while someone is spying on him. And given the context clues of the situation, Artemis and him are talking about, them dancing and how he's got this new rig set up that allows him to feel everything that she's doing to him, basically. Very flirty. It's very flirty at this point. You can tell that they're definitely having fun with this. And that's actually how IOI and Nolan Sorrento, who is the big bad guy in this movie, figure out who Parzival is. Using the name Wade and the fact that he bought this suit, they were able to look up records of sales of this suit that matched that name, and there was only one match. They found him. So that's how they find him and attack him. Afterwards, he is kidnapped, basically, and shown the resistance. We'll get to this in the qualms, as the resistance is...
Or the pencil breakers.
God. So anyways, that's when they figure out what the real second challenge is, and it's the Shining, which is what he took her to go see. Which, he and her. I need to
clarify, The Shining, as in Stephen King's movie, The Shining.
Not Stephen King's. No. Oh no, is it
Stephen
King's book?
Yeah, but it's the movie.
I'm trying to remember who did that.
Yeah, Stephen King.
I don't remember who the producer was, and the director and all that. So, let me see here.
But yeah, it was the video or the movie adaptation of the book The Shining, done by Stephen King and
Stanley Kubrick.
Yes.
So they go through the movie, and this is one of the great scenes where the characters, which is why I say the movie is a little superior, this really shows H. This is where H, I feel, shines in this movie, because H, as a character and a person, had never seen The Shining, so he had no idea what he was in for. And he fell for every trap that the characters in the movie did, which just was a great thing to see. He's, oh, hey, little girls, what's going on here? And then, the little ghostly, evil girls are screwing with him a little further. And, H is just freaking the hell out. It's fantastic to watch on the screen.
And then the zombie chick?
Yeah.
That was weird.
Which wasn't even in the movie. So it threw everyone else off when H was like, yeah, I was attacked by a zombie. They're like, there's no zombies in this movie. And that's where you get this, Dances with Dead thing going on. So the whole movie challenge was, they finally get to this room, they get through The Shining, and there's this huge room with zombies basically dancing around and Kira in the middle. And they need to get to the center and dance with her to get the challenge done. Because he wished he would have danced with her instead of going to see The Shining. Or, dance with her after seeing The Shining. So they go through all this, and they're able to get their clue done.
Okay.
They unlock the second key. They get their clue for where the next one is. Do we want to jump off challenges for a second? Now that we've got... There's a couple big things that happened before the end of the second.
Sure.
With let's talk about our quarter. The
little
coin.
Oh, the token thing.
So while they are doing this whole shining challenge, Parzival makes a bet with the curator. He's called basically the guy in charge of the library. Yeah,
this is in the movie.
I'm going to take the movie side for pretty much this whole episode. You'll be taking primarily the book side for this whole episode. So in the movie, he makes a bet with the curator about, Kira having to do heavily with this challenge and that they missed something. So when they're looking through the logs and they find this shining reference and they go into the movie, they do this stuff. And when they come back, the curator, begrudgingly admits, oh yeah, you were right, here you go. And they had bet their entire fortune each in the game. And the curator kind of laughs at him. He goes, this is all I got. He flips him a coin. That's all he has. So Parzival gets this quarter, basically. And that's it. And what it turns out to be is the extra life token, which he earns in the book. In what way?
So in my opinion, I think it was a far superior way.
Yes.
That he gets this coin.
Yeah, when you're done talking, I'm going to tell why I was so pissed about the fact that they did it the way they did in the movie.
So at one point, Parzival reaches a kind of a low point. Basically, he's no longer in contact with any of his friends or frenemies or whatever you want to call.
He kind of had Daito and Shoto a little bit, but that was about it.
Yeah, but he's no longer in contact with H at that point, or Artemis or something stuff like that. He's very much all on his own. He ends up at a planet called Arcade, which is literally not only a giant museum, but it's
a museum of.
But it's a museum of just a ton of video game cabinets and different consoles, everything from the earliest types of gaming to what we would play these days, which is PS4, Xbox One, all that sort of stuff, PC games, stuff like that.
A lot of it was the nostalgic build. They talk about that in the book, that a lot of the older people that started using the Oasis wanted to recreate their childhood arcades. And that's what they did, is they made them on this planet and they would hang out here.
And there's tons of pizza places, too. Excuse me. Yeah.
See, you are yawning. It doesn't matter.
I tried. So he ends up at this very interesting pizza place that it was a place specially coded by James Halliday, and he was kind of well, why would he just randomly code some just random pizza place?
Such a perfect replica too.
So he goes in, and it's a bowling alley, and a pizza place, and there's an arcade cabinet at the way back, and the game in the back is the original Pac-Man. So he goes up to it. He's like, why is there just a random Pac-Man cabinet when there's 1,000 of them on this planet? So he starts playing it, and
what catches his attention is the high score thing.
Oh, that's right. So the high score is James Halliday's score of a near perfect game.
I think it's 1 point off or something like that. Or 10 points off.
10 points off, which is it's stupid hard. Which there was only 5 or 6 people in the world that
did it on the original cabinet.
Right, in real life, not in the movie. We're in real life. Yeah. This is not an easy thing to do. So he's like, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, he at this point, this is a huge thing for him, because at this point, a bunch of other people have cleared the second challenge already.
So he's already
freaking out a little bit. So he got desperate, and that's why he came to this planet. Is he took the obvious answer to the clue instead of the actual answer, and he ended up on this planet and was trying to
find it,
because he was suddenly behind everybody else. He's been moping about losing Artemis for the whole time. He's way behind on figuring out the answer to this clue. He hasn't been really doing much.
So he attempts to make play a perfect game of Pac-Man. He has to restart a couple of times, but hours later, he does it, and then there's a quarter on the top of the cabinet, which is to signify that the next person in line has the next game. The coin falls, and he can pick it up, and it goes into his inventory in the game, or in the
can't
Oasis,
do anything
but he
with
can't do anything with it. It's just stuck there. He can't, there's no description, there's no, he can't touch it or anything like that. It's just in
can't
his...
use it, can't drop it,
Yeah.
literally can't do anything with it, it seems like.
But then later, it's used as an extra life token.
So
now...
let's get into why this upsets me a little bit.
So you go ahead. I'm on the same page of this, by the way.
Yeah, this one hurt my gherkin.
Hurt your gherkin? Oh, no.
So, this is going to be a big spoiler as well, is the curator is Ogden Morrow, the co-creator of the Oasis with James Halliday. So the curator made this simplistic bet with Parzival and gave him the extra life token. This I see as him helping the High Five, giving them some sort of extra benefit without really any challenge to it.
Mm-hmm.
In the book, there was a legitimate challenge. He earned that extra life token.
That was a definitely skill-based achievement.
In the book, Ogden Morrow makes it very clear that part of James Halliday's will is that he does not assist somebody with winning this challenge. He has to stay impartial. So when it comes to the final fight scene, he will not fight. He'll sit back on the sidelines and eat some popcorn and watch what happens. And he gives the High Five, or the remaining 4 in the book, a safe place to play the game, but he's not giving them an advantage. In the movie, I see that giving them the extra life token, that's an advantage. He just gave a artifact level item to a character attempting to win this challenge.
Pretty much.
I felt as a betrayal to something that was very important in the book, that Ogden Morrow did not participate either way. He obviously, as a person, would have preferred one way versus the other, and he made that very clear that he really hoped IOI and the Sixers did not win, but there was nothing he was allowed to do to stop them. Even though he had god powers, there was nothing he could do to stop them.
Yeah, that too really irked me. Like, I mean, it's one thing if that Parzival got the coin based on, let's be honest here, something extremely difficult in a gaming setting, like a perfect game on Pac-Man. Like, that's one thing to get that.
It means it's been there the whole time.
Exactly.
And no one else has done it.
But everyone in the entire Oasis had the chance.
Well, whereas
a lot more people would have that.
Yeah, anyone
chance.
could have gone to that planet, found that arcade room, and attempted the perfect run of Pac-Man.
Right. But it's another thing
Whereas
entirely for him to just...
In the movie, I don't think Ogden Morrow would have made that bet with anybody else other than the first person to score on the scoreboard. He saw Parzival as the first person to scoring the scoreboard. Hey, I'm going to put my bets on this kid real quick and help him out because I'm scared IOI is going to win.
Understandably, an understandable reasoning, but that doesn't make it morally correct, especially with, like you said, the moral obligations that Morrow had for, keeping to... Yeah, but again, it was the movie version, so...
Yeah, it was supposed to be the fairness of the game. He wasn't supposed to participate. And I guess it is somewhat fair that in the movie, it's not mentioned whether he has God mode. It's not really mentioned whether he's invincible or anything like that in the game. So maybe... But they should have said that he wasn't then, in my opinion.
Right.
I feel like
get some background on that.
They should have shown that maybe Ogden Morrow legitimately won that item himself and chose to give it away then.
Yeah, that would have been... I would have been okay with that then.
In that case, because that's just, he's playing as a legitimate player then and hedging his bets. That's where, when we get to this third challenge in the third gate, that coin is the linchpin that wins him the entire challenge.
Yeah.
Without that, they would have lost. End of story.
Period. Yeah.
So, but yeah, let's go after the third challenge.
All right. Book or movie?
Book. Let's have you go first.
All right. So in the book, after going through Black Tiger and through
whole Zorg thing.
the whole Zorg thing, and the arcade thing where he gets the coin,
extra life token. Yeah.
All that's after that. He ends up getting a clue that deals with the band Rush, which I'm trying to remember.
But their whole album was based on this other world. This whole album created a big story about this place, and they found it, and it was one of Holliday's most favorite bands of all time.
Mm-hmm. And it had to do with the Rush album of 2112, which was a concept album, which, for those of you who don't know what a concept album means, it basically is like there's a giant story behind the album. And in this case, it was very, very heavy in sci-fi, actually, which I didn't even know this going into this. I thought, I'm not really a big fan of Rush. It's not my thing. Mm-hmm. I applaud them for what they are, and I like where their heads are at, like, musically, but it's not my bag of tea. I'm much more of a metal guy. However, finding out that this had to do a lot with a very sci-fi, very kind of like a post-apocalyptic or something very different from the norm, I was like, that's really cool. Mm-hmm. I didn't know Rush was,
I wasn't
into that
aware
sort
of
of stuff.
Either.
So he ends up figuring out that its lyrics to a certain song on the 2112 album, and
that indicates where they need to go, and they complete this. What was the challenge? It was like getting the guitar.
Yes. So they ended up at was it a planet?
I want to say it was a planet. It was a replica of some of the stuff they talk about in the album.
Right. Yeah. It was another. Yeah.
It was this frozen wasteland kind of thing. It was all like desolated and abandoned. And he finds this guitar. He goes to this cave.
That's right.
To get the unlock for the guitar.
So he takes the guitar and starts playing.
Well, yeah, this is something that he realizes that he thinks no one else realizes. Just getting the guitar would unlock the key. Mm-hmm. But if you did something more with the guitar, you would get a more significant clue about using the key.
Bonus clue.
So he decides to pay tribute to Rush and Halliday, and he gets this higher clue, and he realizes it's basically, he doesn't think IOI would have done this, so he thinks he's got another clue, and it turns out to be true. Mm-hmm. That's a huge thing. He goes, yeah, they got the guitar, they got the key right away, but they didn't get this extra clue about using the key. Mm-hmm. And this is one of my favorite references, is what that clue tells him about.
Right, so the clue is about the old show of Schoolhouse Rock.
Yep. And
it's
something about 3.
Yeah.
It's like, being teamwork, working as a group of 3 is going to get this challenge completed for you.
And the only way that you can, there was a door. So they had
the final key gave you the clue that the Castle Anorak is where the gate was.
Right. So they would have to. It was all of them too. So it was H and Parzival and Artemis and Shoto, because Daito was. Do we want to talk about that?
We'll get into that in a few. It's just the survival.
So it's just those 4 were at the scene, and they all figured. And then Parzival. Pretty sure it was Parzival that figured that out.
Yeah, Parzival figured that out.
That
He's
it was
the only one that did that.
Yeah,
no, he didn't get the Schoolhouse Rock. He got the clue, and when he shared the clue with the rest of the group, I believe it was Artemis.
Oh yeah, Artemis figures out
that it was Schoolhouse Rock. But yeah, so that's the third challenge, is that they gotta get this. It's a Rush reference. Get the key. Go to Castle Anorak. By this point, IOI has their shield up already, and they're got this big impenetrable shield around Castle Anorak. No one else is even able to attempt it. Mm-hmm. The only problem is they don't have the clue on how to open the gate. So they've gotten a little bit of time. Let's go to the movie. The movie Challenge 3
was the
it was actually Castle Anorak. It just was Castle Anorak, and it was not beating the original game Adventure, but doing the Easter egg in the game Adventure, which was the very first time the programmer and you know the
first
creator,
ever Easter egg
name was put in a video game.
Yeah.
Originally, it was the company that owned it, that they were the only ones put on the credits and stuff like that. So the creator of the original adventure hid his name in the game if you found an Easter egg. So it was playing that game until you accomplished the Easter egg was what happened for the movie. And that was literally the entire challenge from right there.
I have a question for you,
What
and
up?
I think you'll find this kind of interesting. So in the movie, so this is in your realm. In the movie, there's also a part where James Halliday, as the wizard, comes down and hands over like a piece of paper to Parzival. And he's basically like, "You've won, ha ha ha! Sign here to get everything, and it will all become yours." Now, here's my question. In the movie, Parzival doesn't. He's like, "No, this isn't how the real James Halliday would have, done that." In your opinion, do you think that would have been an extra challenge? Because it
kind of was.
Because it was kind of a test of...
It was.
Yeah, so would you say that would be an extension of that?
That would be an extension of the third challenge. Because it was very much so, are you greedy?
Right, it was more
and I
of like...
feel like that would have saved at least a couple minutes for them if IOI had gotten in there first. So they would have been like, sign that shit.
Yeah, absolutely. But I was thinking
Yeah.
about that, and I was like, would that be an extension of that challenge?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I feel. That was the entire challenge. Let's do we want to hop down to character differences, or do we want to hop to how the shield was dropped?
Shield drop.
Shield drop.
I actually really like how this was done for both the movie and in the book.
It was nice to see it done a little differently in the movie.
So, do you want to take the head on this one then?
Yeah, I'll take the head on this one. So, in the movie, I'm actually going to also target the resistance thing right now. Cause this is
let's get that shit out of the way right away.
So, in the movie, this is one of my big issues with it, is this resistance that is created
solely for the movie.
Yeah, just for the movie. I don't mind if they would have just made a resistance for the movie, but it is so underutilized. There's this talk of a resistance that's constantly fighting IOI, and after Wade's home blows up, basically, and gets sabotaged and destroyed, he gets kidnapped by members of the resistance. He meets Artemis, a.k.a. Samantha, right then and there in the movie. It's about the halfway point, maybe. And she basically says, "Welcome to the resistance." They spend about... was it maybe 20 minutes of screen time before the resistance is then destroyed?
Not even 5.
Is it really that quick? I thought they did some stuff in the Oasis first.
Right, well, no, because he's like, this is the resistance, and then they have that little talk outside in that like outside garden thing, and then Tattoo Guy, who brings in the cereal boxes, gets targeted. And they figure out.
There's this entire resistance that has about 5 minutes of screen time before it's completely destroyed, shut down. Artemis tricks Parzival into escaping and gets herself captured.
On purpose.
She's now an indentured servant, basically, of
IOI. Yeah.
In such a nefarious scheme that is to keep them permanently in debt no matter how much they work.
Pretty much.
Normal bad guy stuff.
Shady.
So I would have really loved to see more of this resistance. I would have loved, during the race challenge to see, Artemis and H talking, and they look at all the Sixers, and they see a couple people in the resistance in there, and they kind of make note of it and say, "Oh yeah, look, the resistance people are showing up today." And during the race, the resistance people are not even trying to win the race.
No, they're just
but
out
just
there for blood.
destroying the Sixers as
blood.
quickly as they can. That would have been great to see. Just little bits here and there of, okay, this resistance is actually a known group within the Oasis. They are constantly, picking at IOI,
very much
attacking
guerrilla
them,
tactics.
Doing whatever they can to screw with IOI. I would have loved that. But the fact that it was there for all of 5 minutes and then immediately wiped out just was like unnecessary. I felt like it did not need to be in there. But it led to one of the changes that I really did like, which was Artemis being the
person who got
the spy, basically, the infiltrator. not planned infiltrator.
No, not at all. But it was.
So she ends up actually being one of the indentured servants that's supplying, being one of the workers within Castle Anorak, and she is basically within this impenetrable shield. So she's their only source of communication in there. They're able to hack into IOI servers and communicate with her directly and tell them their plan. So she's able to get in, and she actually is able to speak the code words that turn off the artifact. And then it needs time to recharge. So they're able to attack. The difference in that is, in the book, is a little more strategic, I feel. It felt really cool
and
to
insane.
See. It was absolutely ballsy as shit. And I'm not going to get into the details of it, but it was cool to see that level of strategy of, I'm going to commit everything to this challenge. Because that was a big thing in the movie that Artemis accuses him of on the first challenge of, a Gunter is willing to risk everything to win this challenge. Of, why are you so afraid of losing your items? Risk it all.
What's a Gunter again?
Egg Hunter.
Got it.
Is the Gunter. So it was cool to see that coinciding of Artemis has to teach him that, hey, a Gunter risks everything. And then in the book, he does risk everything.
Oh, yeah.
By doing his little espionage mission.
Super Bond.
Go for it.
Okay, so the book version of this is, at this point, Parzival is still, very much not in communication with Artemis, with H, with Daito and Shoto. And he goes a little crazy. Just a little bit. Because in order to do what he does, he has to have gone just a little crazy.
Yeah, it's a little nuts. I mean, he literally hacks into the government and changes his identity.
Well, he goes on like the Oasis black market and gets like
secret codes
for like changing his identity and like backdoor codes and stuff like that.
2 seconds while you go after this.
Okay, so he goes and talks about like backdoor like codes. And he gets all of these things on his for his character, so he literally changes like his social security number, his identity at large. So basically, he stops becoming Wade Watts and becomes this other persona, and he dives into it. So he makes a negative balance with the IOI industries who supply his internet or something like. Some sort of he goes into debt somehow, and the IOI people come knocking at his door like, hey, you gotta pay up, but with like guns and weapons and stuff like that, because people they're nuts about their internet. So he gets dragged into this IOI facility, the literal main headquarters of the IOI industries, and he basically becomes like what Ty said, like an indentured servant. He basically becomes tech support for like a week or two, something like that, like 14, 15 days. And while there, he uses all the backdoor codes I talked about, and all these little things on his own personal. He's given like a small habitat to live in while he does all this work. So he uses all these codes and basically gets like remote access to gain. He gains access to all these backdoors into the facility itself, and he finds all of this interesting information like. Dossiers on each one of the high five, and that's talking about him, Artemis, H, Daito, Shoto, and like everything that like where they live, what they're doing. He finds out that Artemis's house is literally bugged, like from the top down. Like they have her like under constant surveillance. And then he finds a way to take the bomb, or not the bomb, the shield out of service. Welcome back, by the way.
Welcome back.
Ty is back.
Hello.
So he gains access to this little robot, and he puts some like subroutine commands into it.
That at a very specific time,
at a very specific place, explode with like a neutrino bomb or something, like a massive explosion.
Yeah,
and
right next to the artifact.
Right, and it destroys it, and the shield comes down, and then
he pre-programs this, hides it in the programming for this little tiny droid, and then escapes.
He basically, he literally walks out of this facility, and he's
a badass.
He's a badass. Yeah.
Parzival was definitely more of a badass in the book than the movie. Artemis was more of a badass in the movie than the book.
I can agree to that.
And that's where I really liked the strong female lead in the movie much more significantly than the female lead in the book. She was very well done. She was not, that helpless damsel the whole time. And in the book, she was the helpless damsel that was mad that she was the helpless damsel every single time. She had so much rage every time he had some advantage. And I didn't like that. It's like, yeah, Parzival got a little lucky. In the book, you could see her anger that he had the extra life token. Every time she talked on the thing to him. You remember that?
At the very end where she was
super
bitter.
She is so bitter. And it's like, well, you know what? He surrendered time hunting for the keys to play this game. And just this random Pac-Man game. And yeah, he happened to get an artifact.
Probably
sucks to be you, I guess.
Yeah.
But, like, she was so bitter. And it was such kind of a sad thing to see in the book that this cool character that I knew from the movie first, because I saw her in the movie, I wanted to imagine her that way. I really did not like her in the book at all.
Really?
She was a bitter, angry individual that didn't make sense, in my opinion. The constant, no, I don't want to see you even until we're done with the challenge. And it's just like...
I understand where she's coming from.
I kind of see where she's coming from, but compared to who she was in the movie, in the movie, she is such a great person. She's willing to fight. She's willing to keep him at arm's distance the whole time.
But still...
she's understanding, too. She's a three-dimensional character in the movie. She is so flat in the book. I don't know what Parzival or Wade sees in her in the book.
Well, you gotta imagine, though, it's in the book, it's a lot more of, like, hey, I'm flirting with the famous Artemis.
Yeah.
And so he sees that, and he gets through that kind of cyber celebrity.
Yeah, it's a
flirt.
Celebrity crush.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed the fact that, because she was famous in the movie too, and he sees her show up.
Everyone's
him and
like,
H are communicating basically through walkie-talkie as they're doing the race the first time. They're like, oh my god, I think that's Artemis. Oh my god, it's Artemis. They're both geeking out over it.
I love that bike.
Yeah, the Akira.
The Akira bike.
Yeah. So, she's just as famous in the book, and I definitely loved the character in the movie. I loved the character in the movie by far more. I liked Parzival much more in the book. He was that guy, except for his creepy moments where he was kind of stalking her, where he was going a little stalkerish, he was a little obsessive.
A little bit. But I feel like that
felt weird.
But that's why I like the book, because it felt like, okay, like this is a real person that has done these weird things.
He's been kind of a basement dweller for so many years. The first time he falls in love with somebody, he's going to take it a little too far.
Too far. But yeah.
So, but overall, I mean, but yeah, the whole... Yeah, let's get into some of our qualms some more. Let's go after those a little more.
Okay, so we talked about the token. We talked about
the resistance.
So we talked about the resistance. What about the lack of D&D and Blade Runner? Yeah,
those were two huge ones, and I think I get where they're coming from. There was no real D&D those two things were completely omitted from the movie. It feels like. And I get it, not as many people would get it. This is trying to speak to, a Hollywood audience. I really wish they would have done a little more. You know,
I think
allow yourselves to adhere to the fans that actually deserve it. I feel.
I think I can't remember if the new Blade Runner came out before or after. Before. Okay. Well, then, in the light of the fact the Blade Runner reference would have done extremely well, I think.
Yeah.
But then that would have been one hell of a licensing fee.
That might have been the big issue too. I don't know if Wizards of the Coast was willing to work with them as much.
Wizards of the Coast?
For
D&D. Right.
And then Blade Runner is too new of a thing. They might not have allowed it. Who knows?
Well, Blade Runner is old school as well, though. But
it depends on which studio owns it. Because you obviously saw that there was no Marvel characters in the whole thing, but there was a couple DC references.
I'm convinced that if you watch the movie, or when you watch the movie, I'm convinced that when the moment when Parzival and Artemis enter the dance club, Pulse, by the way, it's called Pulse. I'm convinced that there's a really quick part where there's a couple that comes out, like a man and a girl.
Yeah, you were mentioning
that
this.
There's a man and a girl that come out, and I'm convinced that it's Deadpool, and I don't know who the girl is, but I'm convinced that it's Deadpool. It looks like he's got his swords and his mask. I take a double look.
Deadpool is a different studio than the MCU,
right?
So it might be the fact that they might have had a little bit of leeway with the mutants and the X-Men and the Wolverine and all that, Wolverine, Deadpool, all that, versus the MCU, Captain America, Iron Man, all them jackasses. The Thor. Oh, God, I'm thirsty for Thor.
Does it hurt?
Yes. But yeah, so that might have been a huge thing with the movie, is where you see a lot of these differences. It's hard to get permission to use all these characters in a movie.
Well, not just that, but I can understand.
You can use them in a book all you want, because they can't stop you from using references in a book.
Right. But I can also understand, like what we talked about before, like D&D it's a particular crowd. But it is much more mainstream now than it was 5, 6, 7 years ago. But it would still be lost on a lot of people how big of a deal the Tomb of Horrors would have been.
Yeah, it might have been a good thing to see a couple things in the background here, though. A little bit more. A little more obvious. I don't know if I missed some. There might have been a couple.
We probably did.
I would have loved if I had seen some of like the original Drist artwork as someone playing as... Basically, their avatar was the original Drist.
Yeah.
Just that would have been enough. Like, okay, you're giving the nod to D&D.
Okay.
Also, the sticky note password that got me.
I thought that was pretty funny because
I liked what the password was, but it made no sense that he would put it on the side of his console.
But I think I get it. I think I get why.
Why?
He's supposed to be like this older and very distinguished man. I don't have time to remember passwords. And what anyone will tell you about an end user is that they are stupid because they leave their passwords just lying around. And I think that was So
you're thinking it's just a matter of he was kind of being just dumb, or was he being cocky?
It was no, not being cocky. It was more of the people that made the movie are saying like, hey, it's funny because he left his password out, like someone who's not very...
Does that feel a little too slapstick for you, though?
I like that. I think it's funny because it's just like this end user's a fucking idiot because he's got his password just hanging out in the wind.
I would love, like, if they had used that on a lackey and they hacked into the lackey's rig initially.
Well, see, that would make more sense, but this is the main guy.
Seeing the guy that I'm supposed to be scared of, intimidated by, being brought down by something so stupid. I like compelling bad guys.
Oh yeah,
I love
if you love to hate them sort of thing.
Yeah, Loki, the Joker, are two of the
Handsome Jack from Borderlands.
Handsome Jack they are smart as a motherfucker, and they are dangerous, and you have to be impressed by them. I was never once impressed by Nolan Sorrento. Entire movie or book. The book a little bit more.
Yeah, I thought the book was a little bit more, but I understand where you're coming from.
The book that he brought him to IOI Sixer Planet and was like, "Look at how badass we are. I can give you everything, or I can
look at all of this.
Everything." Yeah, it was very masturbatory, but it was like if he had pulled out a 12-foot dong at the same time, because he was literally showing off some impressive shit. he was like, oh yeah, I got the Millennium Falcon, I got everything.
NBD, no big deal.
Yeah,
But yeah,
so
but
it felt a little more warranted in the book, whereas in the movie, it's like, oh yeah, here's our drab, disgusting-looking headquarters in the real world. We're gonna hologram your avatar into the real thing instead of showing you how badass we are inside the Oasis. So I'll say that
I thought it was
the book did much better there.
Yes, yeah. But like I said, I thought it was just funny, and the part where Artemis is looking through his files to get that password, and she sees the thing for Pilates class.
Oh, I missed that.
Oh yeah, she's like, yeah. There's a scene where she's looking up the like certain codes or something like that, and she's like Pilates class, and she's like, oh, or like Pilates for men or something. It was it was funny. It was I giggled. It was funny.
Do we got any other qualms? We've talked about pretty much everything on our list here.
People,
you want to go off your favorites?
Well,
I don't know what we're. Oh,
yeah.
That's something I added.
Yeah. So what? You got to tell me what that is, because I have no idea.
In the movie, they're being chased by Nolan Sorrento.
What part? What part are we?
While they're doing the third challenge, they're
Okay.
in H's van. They're being chased. He's being swung around while he's on this rig trying to complete adventure.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this.
They end up crashing in his original stacks with all of his old neighbors, and they've announced to everybody that, hey, we're being chased. You need to stop this guy or else he's going to win. And he pulls a handgun out and everyone stops. You've got 500 versus 1 and you're literally inches away from him. All it takes is, hold your hand up, please. Hold your hand up, please.
Oh.
Okay, you're
done.
No!
That
took a second.
I've been disarmed.
And that's all but they all back up and they allow Nolan Sorrento to get all the way to
the
H's van, open the door, and he has some epiphany of, oh, his suit is glowing gold around his hands. He must have the egg. I'm done. Are you kidding? With how evil they've made Sorrento, he would have been like,
bang!
Yeah, he would have been like, yeah, I'm just gonna, do this just to spite you now. Bang. So I really hated the fact that...
I totally agree with you.
I would have loved the people to take him down. I wanted to see him ripped to shreds out there.
Would have been even better, right? This is where the resistance comes in. That would have been perfect.
Once again,
what are you trying to do, Sorrento? Not take out this kid.
Or have Sorrento and his gang there. They're fighting the people in the stacks. They're winning. They're getting closer to the van. The people in the stacks are fighting, and then the resistance shows up. Because then you've got the people in the stacks actually acting like they've been acting the whole movie, instead of suddenly a change of heart we're willing to do anything for this. Oh, he's got a gun. We're not willing to do anything.
Nolan's got a gun.
So that is just one of those things that I was like,
are you really
stupid?
I actually thought, I didn't think about that, but you were completely right. What the fuck?
Yeah, there is...
They could have snuck up behind him and be like, oh...
at this point, they've admitted the fact that Nolan blew up part of the stack, so these people have literally been attacked. Their neighbors have been killed.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to let Nolan walk through their entire crowd. And it's not like he's got, like, a minigun that he's like, yeah, I'm just going to mow you all down. He's got a pistol.
A 9mm.
Yeah, he's got a singular pistol.
With one magazine.
Yes.
With one magazine. Probably maybe 10 shots. Maybe.
Yes. It depends,
Or we're not getting into that. Not now.
Has the gun law got it down to 8 yet?
My point is that he had one set of rounds.
Mm-hmm. And
he had one target.
And literally the people were about as close as you and me were are to him. And that just really made no sense.
Yeah, that was dumb.
Maybe if they were, even something as simple as, hey, they were 5 feet off already when he pulled the gun. Okay. But they were so close. There was no reason they would back off.
Or if there was a the van or the Humvee van hybrid that he came in on with the other people had a minigun, and there was a guy in then I could understand. No one moved. There's a 50 cal on the top of that Humvee,
and probably has enough ammo for all of us.
Right.
Yeah.
So I can understand that, but there was it?
It was literally him by himself at this point.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I didn't even think of that until you said something.
Yeah.
That is dumb. That is so dumb.
Dumb moment.
Woo! Slap. Okay.
Okay, we've been going for a long time. Let's get into ratings and let's go out to ratings.
Okay.
I think we're pretty. We need to do favorite parts. Hammer through those real quick.
Hammer through those. Okay. So, what was your favorite part?
Okay.
Your first favorite part.
The book was the fact that he actually shared the reward. In the book, the catalyst goes off. He uses his extra life.
Catalyst is a giant bomb, like
that kills
planet
everyone.
bomb.
No, it's not even the planet. It's the sector.
Oh, the sector, which is like where there's 200 something planets in a sector. The entire sector is gone. So.
Everyone on it, even people that weren't even part of this fight, just dead.
Everyone.
His extra life goes off. He realizes he can't get up to the gate because it's floating in the air now, because even the castle's been destroyed, so it's like this big pit in the ground, and the gate's flying up, 30, 40 feet in the air. Artemis tells him that she had an artifact, the Converse...
Chuck
Taylors.
Wings. Yeah.
The Chuck Taylors allowed flight and high jump and all this other stuff. So he's able to get up to the gate, and as he's about to go through it, they're all complaining, or, they're kind of mentioning the fact that, we want to help you, but this feels unfair and all this stuff. And he literally goes on, he opens up his basically news feed to the entire real world and the entire Oasis saying, hey, I am sharing this with these people. Anything I win from this, they get an equal share of. And that just felt real. That was, instead of the movie where he doesn't sign the contract, that felt more real of him saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to stick to my word. These people helped me through here. Without them, I couldn't have done this. They get an equal share. We all control it if we do this. And that was the difference between him and IOI. IOI would have never done that.
No, they would have.
So I loved that scene where he's like, yeah, if I take this for myself, I love the Sixers, and I'm just a little bitch. And he literally announces that, and everyone's kind of shocked. They're like, we didn't really mean you to literally do that. But thank you. So I really enjoyed that.
Heartfelt moment.
Yeah. And then the movie was under that racetrack. That animation for that was just so cool.
Seeing the blueprints and the skeleton of the level, yeah, that was pretty cool.
As far as characters go, Artemis in the movie, she became, I feel, more important than Parzival was in the movie. And then H in the books. I loved H in the books. That cool. Sassiness and that reveal that he was a she. And it felt like one of those, like, almost, the fall from grace, him and, or her and her mom as two black female individuals in the world realized that the Oasis, they could be white males and convince people, and they suddenly became a lot better off in life because people assumed they were white males. And that how she had even gone through the hardship of when her mom found out she was lesbian, got kicked out of the house. So even though her mom knew what it was like, that what prejudice felt like, her mom still did that towards her for being a lesbian. So it felt very real to me that, everyone holds some sort of prejudice, it feels like, and as much as, you and someone else, you and me could go through some sort of prejudice, it's weird that there's a chance that there's a different level of prejudice that you would judge against me or I would judge against you, even though we've seen how bad prejudice is. And I'm not saying you and me necessarily do that, but it was nice to see that in a movie that was a slap of reality.
Right, that was a taste of reality.
That was a huge slap of reality, was that explanation of who H was as a person. And it made me appreciate... Up until that point, H was just kind of, it's this cool character.
But then, bang!
And then you meet the real H, and you're like, holy fuck. I'm so sorry. Do you need a hug?
Right? I need a hug.
Oh,
I need a hug.
Buddy.
Oh,
buddy.
We're not cutting this out.
No, that's staying in.
Alright, so...
and for those of you that are going to listen to just the podcast without the video, we just hugged. We hugged it out, yo.
Yes. We did.
Get to yours.
Alright, so one of my favorite
Continue.
I'm gonna slap you.
I'm waiting.
For those of you just using audio, I slapped him across the face. So, one of my favorite parts is actually in the movie.
Oh yeah?
Is the part where after Parzival gets the first key or gets the first gate or whatever, he's super famous and everyone's like, oh my god, it's Parzival. So he ends up at the archives where like James Halliday, like
the James Halliday Library,
basically he goes there and he's swamped by like 30, 40 people, and then this guy. This big, like, beefy guy, which I'm pretty sure he was, like, from Mortal Kombat.
I believe it was a Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Here, while you keep talking, I'm going to look that up.
Yeah, it was the guy with, like, 4 arms. I'm pretty sure he's from Mortal Kombat. Anyway, so the guy drags Parzival away in the movie, and they go, like, inside a giant...
walls.
Yeah, they go into one of the walls, like literally inside, and... the guy starts like, you can't be just out here just by yourself or whatever. And then Parzival's just kind of like, what are you talking about? Who are you? And all of a sudden, this like alien head bursts from the guy's stomach.
Classic alien.
Like the classic alien. And then like Parzival's just like, oh my god, what the fuck? And just freaking out. Then and then you find out it's actually just like a hand puppet thing, and it's actually Artemis, and she like takes it and like she goes nom 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 nom, and like eats the Mortal Kombat guy as a costume, and she just has the hand puppet of the alien, but it's such a really nice animation and just like very fluid. It was just like that was awesome. Like I was really impressed by that. I don't know, it was really funny too.
Mm-hmm.
I also really liked the zero gravity shootout in Pulse.
Was by far one of the coolest
both
scenes.
in the movie and in the book.
And in the book, that's where you get introduced to Og, the
Yeah.
great and powerful Og.
Yeah,
So
the IOI people, they ambush Pulse, and it's during Og the great and powerful Og. It's his birthday, and he's like pushing 80, 70 something. And IOI attacks, and Og's like, I'm not having this. And he basically force lightnings everything, and just in the book. And it was just really cool. One of my other favorite parts is at the end of the movie, the scene where it's Parzival talking to James Halliday. And both in the movie and in the book, it's a little bit different in the book. But in the movie, James Halliday kind of makes it seem like because during this entire thing, all of this in the movie, James Halliday is dead. He dies. That's where this Easter egg hunt thing kicks off with him, like doing a short movie. Like, hey, there's like an $80 billion prize money and all the stocks in my company up for grabs. Here's how you do it. That sort of thing. But at the end, it's just Parzival and James Halliday in his like 30s, and then James Halliday when he's like 11.
You're right. It is Mortal Kombat. It's Goro.
Oh, it's Goro. It was the 4-armed guy from Mortal Kombat. I knew it was right.
Yeah,
I knew it.
I just needed to know which one it was at this point.
At the end, he's talking. Parzival's talking to James Halliday, and it just. He's like, are you, like, he starts talking to him like he's a real person, and James Halliday doesn't really say no.
He doesn't really answer whether he is or isn't.
No, and I'm kind of convinced that, I mean, if they make a second movie, which I think they will.
Really?
I have
Without a book?
Well, he's making another book.
Oh, he is?
I'm pretty sure. Like, he said something he's setting up for another one. Because it kind of does. It'd be interesting to see where it leads to, considering the end of the book was very... Parzival said... Parzival said he would never enter the Oasis ever again because he was going to be with Samantha.
Yeah.
So, we'll see where that goes. But you don't... But it gives off the edge of... Is James Halliday have like an AI that's like alive with his personality?
It did seem very smart because it was able to answer without knowing what the questions were going to be.
Mm-hmm. It was
so there might be some sort of reference to an artificial intelligence in this one.
Yeah,
I do like that idea. I
really hope there's
to
a
see
sequel.
more of it,
Yeah.
or even just side stories. You know, they've done it with so many other series. I mean, look at what's that? Sword Art Online. They've got a couple series now that are not dealing with the main characters at all. There's like alternate, like these were happening at the same time, but they had nothing to do with the main character. There's just other people in the world. So there's Gun Gale Alternative now, where it's a couple different characters. I watched like the first episode. I wasn't overly drawn to it.
Okay.
It wasn't necessarily bad. There was too many other things. Tokyo Ghoul Season 3 had just hit on Hulu at the same time. So I was like, I like Tokyo Ghoul.
Yeah.
But I would like to see them just do more in this world.
I would too. So,
yeah.
do we have anything else we want to talk about before ratings?
Let's get, maybe just what we're hoping to see from it in the future, or just
I
want to
see another movie
you really like.
I really want to see another movie.
let's gush for a second. The fact that the Gundam suit in the movie came off of Serenity
from Firefly.
The Firefly class cargo ship named Serenity was so cool.
Oh, it was really,
I loved that.
Yeah.
The fact that it's Gundam versus Mechagodzilla at the end there was just so cool. In the book, you have a crazy fight scene where it's
Parzival and
everyone has a giant robot basically.
But
Mechagodzilla is even bigger. And what's even great is they had such an army of all the other people in the Oasis that when the shield dropped, they had Voltron on the bad guy side, and each one of their players had to have a different piece of Voltron to make it. So it was like a 5-in-1 robot, which means it was that much more powerful, was obliterated in moments of the shield dropping because there was so much firepower on the good guy's side.
It was so cool.
It was so cool to see, or to read.
Right.
That literally Sorrento and the IOI Sixer side, they had all these robots. They had far more in number. The good guy side only had 4 of them at this point. And the bad guy side had the equivalent of like 11, I want to say. And 10 of those 11 were killed within moments.
Yeah. Just
because there was so much firepower directed at them. Mechagodzilla was the only one that lasted any period of time. And that was because, Shoto was fighting the hell out of him, was doing a good job, and then he made one misstep and got caught and blown away. And Wade actually decides to go back. Even though they had gotten past the lines, they were ready to get to the gate, Wade risks even more just to go after Sorrento, which was glorious to see him be like, we got through, we can win this, but fuck it, I need to get revenge. I need this. And he went and fought Mechagodzilla and wins.
So nice.
And he does it with Ultraman instead.
Yes, which is it's a Japanese action show from God, this.
And it deals with scientists instead of just your normal teenagers with superpowers.
Yeah, it was
great.
So I got another qualm. There was I understand because it's a much more modern movie, but there was a huge lack of 80s references in the movie. Yeah. And that's what really drew me to the book, because there was just reference of really cool shows that
I gotta ask though, with our modern CGI capabilities, would people have even recognized modern renderings of these 80s references?
Well, it wasn't just TV shows either. It was music
in general.
Just right, but there was
recognized it. That was where the issue is they were worried, I feel, that they wouldn't get the sales that they needed if they didn't appeal to a more modern audience.
So, basing it off of 90s versus 80s and stuff? Okay.
Deal with the 90s kids. Because what are we? You're, 89?
9. Old enough.
Okay. Because I'm 93. So I'm a 90s kid, pretty close to the center there. And you're only a couple years older than I am. So you were definitely old enough to be aware during the 90s.
Oh,
you
yeah.
you were
very
entrenched. You fought in the trenches of the 90s, as a child. So they had to appeal to that, I feel. As much as I would have loved a full 80s movie, I don't think they would have made their money back. They would have not got the financing for it if they
And
had
I
gone
agree
for
with that, but I was still disappointed by
Yeah.
the lack of 80s references.
I almost wish there was a double cut of this movie, of one that had the 80s references and one that had the 90s reference, that when they release on Blu-ray,
Oh, that'd be
you
nice.
could watch whichever one you want.
But I mean, don't get me wrong. There was some 80s references, and there was quite a few throwbacks and stuff like that. But I felt like I wanted more of that.
Oh, yeah.
Like I wanted more.
I could have dealt with the, Lord of the Rings extended edition length movie
Oh,
for this world.
I would have paid.
I could
would
have sat for
money at
5
that.
hours.
Me too.
I mean, maybe if they gave us a little potty break in the middle, but I could have definitely gone and sat at the movie theater for 5 hours.
And
for
watched
3 weeks in a row.
Talk about masturbatory.
Right, at this point.
All right. Was there anything else?
Let's get into ratings.
Okay, so I would say that we would rate this both the book and the movie differently.
Yes, absolutely.
So why don't you take the movie side and go run with it?
So the movie
Out of 10.
overall, out of 10, I'm going to give it about a 8.7.
Okay.
I'm basing this on the fact that a solid 10 is I would change absolutely nothing.
The perfect movie.
Do not do anything to this movie or I swear I will kill you.
Right.
This is New Hope when Han shot first still.
Yes.
Would be a 10.
Yes. Not special edition.
Exactly. None of this Han dodging bullshit.
No.
That would be a
Han
solid
doesn't
10.
need to do that.
So I'm going to give it an 8.7. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed going multiple times. I go on the $5 movie day, so I have no problem going 2 or 3 times to just about any movie.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I can enjoy myself. The theater near us sells beers and is $5 on my weekends, my version of weekends, because I don't work a normal shift.
Gotcha.
So the fact that I can go, it's still fairly cheap for me. I'll go every single week usually. I'll go see a movie at least.
Okay.
And I'll give it the 8.7 because it's definitely not like great where I'm going to change very minimal. I would love to see a lot more with it. I left the theater happy but wanting more.
Okay.
So it's under 9.
Okay.
So that's movie for you as well.
Okay, so movie for me. I would say I would give it the same rating actually.
And a solid 8.7 or
solid-
even a little higher, a little lower, nothing?
Well, seeing as I was introduced to the book a little bit longer than you, and I had read it multiple times, and then we went to see the movie. I liked both of them very equally.
Okay.
But I mean,
for their own reasons, obviously.
yeah, right. But I would give the movie a solid 8.7. That seems fair to me. There was a lot, and there was some things that I didn't agree with, like we talked about the end where Nolan Sorrento basically walked up and almost point blank shot.
There were some big changes there I would have liked.
Right, but at the same time, all the challenges were completely different, but it
made
still
it a
worked.
standalone thing. And part of the reason I gave it such a high rating is even though they changed so much, every challenge was different. It was announced that they were going to make it different, and that I respect. I respect that. If you're going to make an adaptation and you want it to be different than the source material, you say you're doing so ahead of time.
And
Do
you did.
not let the audience show up thinking they're going to get one thing and give them something different.
And he did.
Exactly. And that's why I give it such a high rating, is the fact that, yes, things were changed, but you said ahead of time you were going to change it. Respect.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for at least giving me that heads up to not expect that.
I was able to get my helmet on in time.
Exactly.
So, the book. Now,
You go first on the book here.
I loved the book. Everything. We're talking all about the really creepy, interesting scenes where Wade was just by himself with things.
Yeah, he's talking about some weird stuff in that book, and it felt like, very much so what a teenager would think like.
Right. And
there is a whole
real.
It felt like almost an entire chapter of him talking about masturbation.
Yep, pretty much. But I loved the book so much, and it was made even better because Will Wheaton did an amazing job narrating it, and I give it a solid 9, if not like a 9.4. Very high.
So you're gonna go with 9.4.
9.4 for the book, absolutely. It worked for me. To this day, I at least make an effort to re-listen to the book at least once every couple of months, just to, I liked it that much.
Okay.
So book.
Reading the book like paperback, it obviously is a little more difficult to find the time to do that. I struggled to read the entire thing a second time. I found myself skipping a lot of the world building,
which is fair, especially
is
the
fine,
first 4 chapters
where it's literally just telling you
his life.
Halliday's life. I didn't need to read it more than 3 times. And that was with skipping a lot of parts the second and third time. I just wanted to see the scenes that I really enjoyed. So, the book overall was fantastic for nostalgia. I loved it.
Every bit.
I'm going to give it just an 8.9.
Okay.
Just under
That's
a 9.
fair.
The characters were not strong enough to break a 9. There was 1 or 2 solid characters in the book. Parzival felt fleshed out. He felt like a teenage guy, overly mopey about the girl that he lost, a little over creepy because he doesn't know where that limit is.
Right, because he's never reached that line before.
I liked seeing that. You know, a lot of people give him flack that, this guy's being creepy, but it's like...
He's like
18,
what? 19?
I remember certain friends of mine being that way, and I get it. A book is not always supposed to be about the absolute perfect person. Show me their flaws, and they did with Parzival. They showed me a flaw that he fell in love hard, and he didn't know where that line was that he's not supposed to cross. And then H was such a good character in the book.
Yes.
H and him were able to discuss games. They'd get into violent rants at each other half the time. They'd get angry with each other, throw the controller. I mean, I remember when I was younger, I was still like an angry individual. I threw a Xbox controller across the room because I was losing so bad one time. I broke the controller. And you know what? I get it. Hormones are raging. I haven't ever done anything like that since. And it felt funny to watch 2 characters almost get to that point, where they're yelling at each other to the point where they don't even want to play the game they're playing because they're getting so heated.
I completely agree.
And it's funny to see these 2 young individuals, and he
be
mentions
real. Yeah,
it was very real for me. So those 2 characters I would not change a dime. Sorrento in the book, I would not change a dime.
No, he was a guy that I like to hate.
Daito and Shoto,
they could have had a little bit more in the book. I felt like they were.
I felt like they copped out. They were like, "Oh, we're not willing to team up," and it sounds like you want to team up, so we're leaving right now before we listen to the rest of you. Because there was a scene where the High Five all met in the book, and Shoto and Daito just leave pretty much right away. They take offense to something and they're just out, and it's like, just listen, you fuckers. Shut up and sit down, damn it. And you can tell that Shoto wanted to listen more, but he's the younger brother, so he follows Daito, and that made sense in the whole, when you think about the Japanese culture and all that sort of stuff, the older sibling is followed.
Yeah.
But the fact that they were just so quick to bail out, and then as soon as Daito dies, Shoto comes to Parzival right away. So, I loved Shoto. I did not like Daito, that he was so bullheaded and focused, but not in an intelligent way. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm gonna keep him under a 9 for the book. 8.9, it's right on that edge. Fix the characters just a little bit, I'm there.
You know what? You make a good point. I will change.
No. Keep because you love it. You have not shut up about this book in like a year.
All right. So
you personally love it. Don't let my opinion change yours, because you would not have thought about that without me being a bitch.
All right. So based on these, what do you think? Is this a now that it's out of the theaters, even now as this video is rolled out, would you purchase this movie? Would you rent it, or would you just?
Well, seeing as I've already purchased it, I've already purchased it. It will show up on Tuesday. It's actually.
I think you know what I mean. I think you know what I mean.
But I will purchase the normal Blu-ray HD digital copy setup, but I won't buy any like director's cut super high-end special
or like the collector edition or whatever.
I'm not going to buy the collector edition or anything like that, but I'm going to get the one that gets me the Blu-ray and the HD or the digital copy at least. Absolutely. And the book, if it had not shown up in a loot crate, I would have purchased it myself.
Okay.
So definitely worth a purchase for the book. It was a fun read. I did it in 2 days flat. And that was when I was supposed to be sleeping for work. I gave up a lot of sleep for work, and I was struggling. I drank like 4 Monsters each of those shifts to stay awake.
Holy balls.
While I was at work because I had given up so much sleep to read this goddamn book.
So that's for you. For me, I would probably buy a collector's edition, especially if it came with like a special cover book with it. Not like a movie cover.
Oh, like an actual like hard copy of the book,
but like
it came with,
but
the
it was
movie.
different. Yeah, but it would come with the movie, or like if it came with a T-shirt or a pin or something like that, I would be okay with it.
I would have loved to see a copy of the book, make it twice the size, but stills from the movie are every couple pages. To show the comparison of what you're reading to how they made it in the movie. That would have been cool as shit to see. Character portraits of when Artemis is introduced, a picture of her from the movie. So you're like, I read this and I flipped the page and that's what she looked like in the movie, but like, is that how I saw her in the book? A compare and contrast book.
Season 2, Scroll versus Screen. No, I'm just kidding.
But that would have been cool.
But yeah,
I would definitely
then
go for that at least if it came with the book as well.
Yeah. Now, for me, the book, hands down, buy it. Don't even fucking think about it. Also, if you are in the market to listening to books, like if you have a commute, like to to school or to work or something like that, and
or you have a desk job that you're allowed to just listen to stuff while you work.
Yeah, pick up the audiobook of Ready Player One,
because Audible gives you something free. How often?
Every month. There's different membership programs, but there's like you get a free credit every month for like the basic package, and I still have all my credits because I usually will pick a book like right before it renews. So I have all my credits, but I've been slowly working them down because I've been buying all the Dresden audiobooks recently because they're amazing.
That and Forgotten Realms from the sounds.
Oh, that
you've
too.
Bought quite a few of those with your credits.
Yes, it's very much worth it. So for me, buy both. I would buy the collector's version of the movie, and I would definitely get the book. Also purchase the audiobook. He says basically the same,
except
not like
the movie. Just get the movie.
Just get the movie.
You don't need anything more than the movie. Maybe some deleted scenes is all I would ever watch.
I want to watch the.
I would not listen to the director commentary. I personally am not a big fan of director commentaries
unless it was like a specific, like if it was a comedy movie and it was like the comedians.
Oh, all I'm talking about. That is something like that Howl that we talked about in episode 0. Mm-hmm. I would listen to director commentary about that.
That would be interesting.
That would be very cool, and that's a movie that I need you to watch in the near future. So, overall, that's episode 1.
All right, well,
buy the movie, buy the book. Fantastic, both of them.
All right, well, thank you again for joining us for Scroll versus Screen. Stay tuned for the next episode.
Have a good night.